Recently, I've been thinking about our favorite genocidal Kushan warlord, Ganishka. I know I've said some things about this character that may not please the Berserk fan base en masse, but maybe they were right, and Ganishka is a little bit more than what I gave him credit for originally. It's not that I didn't understand the character or his place in the story, but I think just as Miura wrote it, everything Ganishka did was a hopeless endeavor, and while thinking about his desire for conquest and power, and his deeply rooted need to hold on to his position that he had established himself in even before he became an apostle. It actually might be one of the greater representations of an age-old lesson that comes from the short story called The Sword of Damocles. The gist of the story goes something like this. There was a king with all of the riches and luxuries that there could be found acquired from his years of rising to power. A servant of his named Damocles thought how wonderful it must be to be a king, to have everything that you could ever want at your disposal, to be the leader of thousands of men. How great it would be to just have it all. So the king decided to show Damocles exactly what it felt like to have so much power. He told him that tomorrow we will switch places. Tomorrow you, Damocles, can sit on the throne as king and experience what I feel every single day. The next day comes, and Damocles, excited at this opportunity, sat in the chair dressed in his finest clothing, probably having half-naked women feeding him grapes and refilling his glass of wine inside of a golden cup. The feeling was intoxicating, addicting. And then he looked up. Hanging above the throne, swaying gently side to side, was a sword pointing with the blade down right above his head. That sword was attached to the ceiling by a single horse's hair, ready to snap at any moment and come forcefully down upon him. Damocles' fear and anxiety began to skyrocket. He could no longer focus on the luxuries before him, knowing that any second, none of it would matter. It could all be taken away if even the slightest breeze released the sword from the hair. Ganishka's quest for power and authority was a lifelong ambition. Not only did he go through horribly dark measures to ensure that he got the throne, enduring poisoning as a child, killing his only brother, mother, and then eventually his father, taking the ruling position only to, with 100% certainty, lock in the fact that he could never truly enjoy it, never truly be happy. His eyes showed the reality of a man that knew both all of the horrible things that he had done to reach this position that he could never get rid of, and the inevitable truth that all he had garnered could be taken away if he let his guard down for a single second. Ganishka spent his entire life in fear, anxiety, and pain. It is in fact no wonder that his apostle form would be so powerful if the levels of darkness and negative energy within a person's soul reflects at all their level of power within an apostle transformation. Now, perhaps that doesn't actually work within the lore of Berserk, but from a symbolic point of view, I think it makes perfect sense. Ganishka's eyes, like his father's were before him, are like the eyes of Damocles once he noticed the sword above him. Haunted by his past, haunted by his unknown future, and haunted by his current existence, knowing that he stands no chance against Griffith and his army. Think about how much Ganishka acquired. His kingdom, his luxuries, his armies, the fact that he has a hookah-smoking wizard and some demonic tigers at his disposal, that he can take the form of an impenetrable mist, that he engulfed the kingdom of Midland and took it for his own. All of this, and still, he will never experience the level of content happiness like someone like Guts felt holding Casca in his arms. Naked and with nothing but each other, but no fears, no worries in this moment. A healing moment symbolized by Guts recounting Gambino's medicine during his childhood. A moment of no material pleasures, and yet both with restful eyes. Unlike Ganishka's eyes, Ganishka's only moment of relief came within his final seconds of life, after his multiple losses and after willingly having his mind be broken to try to achieve a power similar to a god hand. Looking up at the image of Femto's light and submitting to the inescapable destiny that was laid out before him, Ganishka never knew peace. every victory only led him to needing to acquire more. In the story of Damocles, he decided to remove himself from the throne before even a single day was over, unable to deal with the anxiety of the sword looming over his head. That feeling is what Ganishka had his entire life, right up until the very end. And perhaps in spite of this story, we have Griffith, one that had already had that sword fall on him and somehow lived on, beating the fear that Ganishka had. And maybe you can look at Griffith as the opposite lesson. Griffith's origins were Ganishka's greatest fear, and this led into his submission. Griffith is the peasant, the king, and the sword all at once. And Ganishka, for as proud and powerful as he became, never stopped being that scared child. Never stopped looking with the same eyes that his father had before him. Ganishka would never be comfortable, not even in his own throne.